Tonight on the Daily Debrief, murder on the farm.
His response was, "I can't because my mom is a bitch."
Is a defendant's trash talk about his murdered mother going to land him in prison? Plus, death, drugs, and dismemberment. A defendant brags to police.
I, kind of have a sordid sex life, so to speak.
What's it have to do with his father's death? Is he the true killer? And the former boyfriend of this woman burned to death in Mississippi has himself been shot and killed. The nation's top criminal cases are on the Daily Debrief. It's Friday, March 15th. And good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Debrief. Brian Buckmeyer, Linda Kenny Bodden, Michael Bryant will be joining us in a couple of minutes. Is an Iowa son a seed of evil? It's a case of murder on the farm. Prosecutors say a son killed his mother because he was going bust. Prosecutors say the timeline fits for Jason Carter to have killed Shirley Carter and then staged the scene to look like a robbery. The defense said during openings that friends and family would testify that Carter loved his mother and that the family got along well. That claim seems to have backfired. The key witness in this case is Bill Carter, father to the defendant, husband to the victim. He testified about finding his wife dead, about the position of her body, about the amount of blood, and even about his son's finances. We will break down the key points of his testimony tonight. First up, the moment when Bill Carter pushed back at suggestions that the defendant was a stand-up, helpful son.
In the past, if Jana or Billy, Dean, or Jason needed anything, you or Shirley would help them, wouldn't you?
Money-wise or help-wise or?
Either.
I helped Jason a lot physically with equipment, my labor, and I probably helped him more monetarily than I did the other two kids. But I did not help Jana and Billy nearly as much as I did Jason.
Well, and Jason also helped you, too. There was a discussion about...
In what respect did he help me?
When you were taking crops out of the fields, he would...
No. He was never done. I always went and helped him when Shirley and I got done. And the same thing at planting time. We were done planting, and then we would go help him put his crops in. He never had a planter or a tractor or a combine set foot on my ground.
He would run your equipment, help you, and do some work for you, didn't he?
No. When he was working at the car dealership, he had less time to help because he was farming a lot of ground then. He was up over 800 acres then, and he still had to do his full-time job. He had no time to help me. I didn't need any help. Shirley and I did not want help. We like to do things ourselves.
Couple that with this testimony from a friend who said defendant Jason Carter was vulgar and unflattering when referring to his mother. This conversation you're about to hear occurred in a farm combine in the fall of 2014. Shirley Carter died the next summer.
I asked why he didn't farm together with his dad, and his response was, "I can't because my mom is a bitch."
Did it surprise you when he said that?
A little, yes.
Why?
I have known Shirley about as long as Bill, and it was just, she didn't strike me as that person.
Compare that testimony with this portion of the defense opening statement, which suggests this was just one big happy family.
Bill Carter and Jana Carter and Billy Carter will all testify. And I believe they will all testify that Jason was over at the house, that he spent time with his mother, that his mother was proud of him, happy with him, that they were together often, and that none of them had seen friction, sadness, and that there had been no arguments asking for land, that there had been normal communication.
New York Public Defender Brian Buckmeyer, criminal defense attorney Linda Kenny Bodden, and attorney Michael Bryant are my guests tonight. Michael, let me start with you. Do you agree that the defense now has a serious credibility problem after an open like that and testimony like we just heard?
I mean, there's no doubt. You have Bill Carter painting this picture that his son is just a giant leech. You know, he's just there to take what he can from mom and dad. So, yeah, that cuts against the opening statement that says, hey, we're just one happy family.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to figure out how they got to this point. Brian Buckmeyer, how does this happen? Is this defendant lying to his own attorney about the family? Is the defense not doing due diligence here, rather? Turn back the clock for us and try to explain this.
I think a bit of both. This is a situation where the defense attorney has oversold their story. They're doing one of the biggest mistakes you can do in asking a question that you don't know the answer to, especially when it's material to the motive in the case. And that's why she's getting such great pushback.
Linda, let me ask you this. How damaging is this in the grand scheme of things? Is this case over for the defense? Is this a minor hiccup they're going to be able to overcome? Look into the crystal ball.
No, it's not over for the defense, because remember, the motive here is supposed to be murder for money. Money, 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 money. And if indeed the father is still alive, how does this defendant benefit from an inheritance? So that is not over. Plus, you have other things with regard to whether or not somebody else did this crime, because other people have confessed to a third party in prison.
Yeah, okay, exactly. Michael Bryant, where do you make of the direction the defense needs to take this case at this point?
Well, there's no doubt, and we saw it in the cross-examination of the last witness today, that they're going to throw up the some other guy did it thing, and they're going to point out that the cops didn't follow these leads that suggest maybe, in fact, somebody else did it. So I would expect to see a lot of that from the defense next week. You
know, shifting gears a little bit, we also had the father sort of backtrack a little bit on his own testimony about just how the victim, his wife, was positioned when she died. He said at one point, oh yes, I'm a former butcher, there's rigor mortis. Then he turned around and backtracked that on the witness stand and said, well, you know, I'm really not an expert in it, so I can't tell. So there are some questions about his own observations in this case as well. But look, let's move along with more testimony from father and husband Bill Carter. He also testified about his will. His testimony is key to the state's theory of the case.
Was Jason Carter in 2015 aware what was in your will?
Yes.
How was he aware what was in your will?
When Shirley and I changed the will, we showed Jason and Shelley what we had done. We showed them the will.
And when you say Shelley, who is Shelley?
Shelley is Jason's wife.
Did Jason play any role in the administration of your will?
He was appointed the executor.
Bill, if both you and Shirley had died on June 19, 2015, what would have Jason Carter inherited?
He would have gotten the farm, which was worth $3.5 to $4 million, and another $800,000 at least in cash assets.
2015. Did you start to have concerns that Jason was going to struggle to pay off his farming debts?
Yes, I did. Commodity markets had dropped. And our expenses stayed the same. Seed corn, fertilizer, chemicals stayed the same. So was bound to happen to all farmers. I mean, it was, especially if you were renting a lot of ground.
What did you think he was going to have to, how much was he going to come up short?
I assume somewhere between $100,000 and $150,000.
Had you, in years past, bailed him out before?
Once.
The defense was quick to cross-examine the father on whether the son knew that killing his mother would give him nothing immediately.
Is that a copy of Shirley Carter's will?
Yes.
And is that the will that was in place on June 19th, 2015?
Yes.
In the event of Shirley's death, everything went to you.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's correct. That's the way it usually is in joint tenancy.
And Jason was aware of that, wasn't he?
Well, I don't know if you read the complete will or not.
You provided it to him, though.
Yeah, we showed him where he was the main beneficiary, and we showed him where he would be the executor. Now, I don't know if you read the will word for word.
Let's check in with the panel on this particular topic here. So, Brian Buckmeyer, I'll throw this question your way first. Does this testimony blow away the state's theory that this was a murder for money?
I don't think it blows it away, but I definitely think it creates a gap that the defense attorney has to pull apart as much as they can. Because if you juxtapose this with the last comments that he had, where he's saying, my son was lazy, I had to help him on this, I had to help him financially, I had to help him physically after all my chores, why then make him not only the main beneficiary of your will, but also the executor as well? That doesn't seem to jive.
I mean, I could see the executor being an issue here. The beneficiary, okay, yeah, he's struggling. My other children perhaps have done better. I'll give him a little bit more money to make sure he's okay because I care about him, I love him. But why put him in charge? I agree with that. That's the question the defense needs to ask here. Linda Kenny Bodden, does the state need to change its theory to say that this was more about a grudge than it was about money?
Right. Most killing of parents are about some kind of revenge or anger. There is an argument, okay? Now, what I found interesting that no one's mentioned is there was a checkbook on the floor, all right, off that desk. So what if they're trying to write a check? He's trying to steal checks. He's going to cash them. And there's an argument with the mother. And that, I thought, was an interesting fact that no one seems to have picked up on.
Wow, you can argue this case for the state. Linda Kenny Bodden switching sides, I think, there. Michael Bryant, question for you here. Defense, it seems to me, needs to call some experts on Iowa estate law to try to indicate, hey, look, you know, what happens in Iowa if you kill somebody? Because in a lot of states, most states, I think, you can't take under a will if you get caught doing anything like that.
Yeah, and not only that, remember that anything that has what's called an inter vivos contract passes outside of a will. So if you have joint tenancy in the land that we've been talking about, it doesn't even have anything to do with the will. It's going to pass from the mom to the joint tenant, in this case, Bill Carter, and the defendant's not going to get a thing out of that process.
Yeah, I mean, this particular motive of the state here seems to not have as many wheels as perhaps the state would like. But again, the defense has got to get more of that out there to make its case. Still ahead tonight here on The Debrief. It's been more than 4 years since Jessica Chambers was burned to death in Mississippi. Tonight, a strange new development as her boyfriend at the time she was killed is himself shot and killed. Also, the son accused of murdering his father and chopping up the father's body brags about sex when police confront him. What's that all about? We'll take you back inside the courtroom in just a moment. Welcome back to The Debrief. The Florida man accused of mailing explosives to prominent Democrats and to the press last October is expected to plead guilty to at least some of the charges he faces. That's according to a federal court docket in New York, where Cesar Sayoc faces the charges on your screen, among others. The FBI says a fingerprint on at least one of the improvised devices mailed late last year tied Sayoc to a number of crimes. The former boyfriend of Mississippi homicide victim Jessica Chambers has himself been killed. Chambers was burned in December 2014. Her former boyfriend, 33-year-old Travis Sanford, was found shot to death in Cortland, Mississippi, local authorities report. Sanford and Chambers were dating when Chambers was killed. One suspect in Sanford's death is in custody. Defendant Quentin Tillis was twice tried for allegedly killing Chambers. Both trials against Tillis resulted in a hung jury, likely because first responders said Chambers named her killer as Eric or Derek, not Quentin Tillis, before she died. Day five of testimony in the case of a Florida man accused of murdering his father and dismembering the body before burying some of it on a golf course. James Scandirito Jr. faces the charges but does not face the death penalty. Prosecutors say the defendant took his father's money, had 2 passports, and even lined up a private plane. The defense, however, says Scandirito and his father, who used to be a judge, by the way, were dealing drugs. The defense wants the jury to believe the father died after taking drugs and that James Jr. merely chopped him up so that authorities would not find the drug stash. A medical examiner today testified that the victim had marijuana in his system along with slight amounts of alcohol and prescription painkillers. Here is how the medical examiner interpreted his findings.
He had evidence of having smoked marijuana. He also had 2 painkillers, hydrocodone and oxycodone. Those are prescription medications. He also had a little bit of alcohol in his system. The amount of alcohol could have just been from the decomposing. So when we decompose our bodies, actually the bacteria in our bodies can actually produce alcohol, the same alcohol that we would drink. He has a little bit in his system as well.
What was the quantity of alcohol that was found to be in the decompositional fluid of Mr. Scandirito?
It was 0.073%.
And could that amount of alcohol be solely as a result of decomposition?
It could be, yeah, I've seen that before. I've seen higher in people that don't drink and just are decomposing.
What were the levels of the hydrocodone and the oxycodone found in Mr. Scandirito's decompositional fluid?
Hydrocodone was 21.3 nanograms per milliliter, and the oxycodone was 69.6 nanograms per milliliter. What I can tell you is it's not a lot, so it doesn't concern me in terms of his cause of death. It's in his system. There's no therapeutic range for marijuana.
Yes.
But for the 2 painkillers, I wouldn't be worried about it now.
That same medical examiner said a lack of bruising on the victim's body suggested he was dismembered after he was already dead. Jurors today also heard the defendant's recorded police interview. He suggested his father was probably out having sex and claimed to know nothing about the disappearance.
For the 3 days that he talks about, he doesn't tell you where he's been, where he's going, just that he's been with this woman. Okay. But doesn't say what they're doing, where she lives, nothing. Where her house is, no. What their activities are going to be. I'm assuming their activities are sex. Okay. I'd say, yeah. I mean, why do you say that? Well, because I gave him some Viagra. You gave your dad some Viagra? Yeah. When did you do that? I gave that when I came back on Thursday. You gave him Viagra. Did he ask for it? Yes, he asked for it. Where does that come? Again, didn't know that. How does that come? I didn't, I'm sorry, I didn't know. No, I mean, it's fine. I just didn't know that. How did that conversation go? It was, he knows that I, kind of have a sordid sex life, so to speak, in terms of what? I have sex a lot with girls. Okay, nothing wrong with that. That's legit, okay. And so, I'm not a Viagra guy in terms of using it all the time, but I have some, and he knows that. We talked about it before. Okay. And he kind of came out of the blue and asked me about, some on Wednesday night when we were drinking. Okay. So, but I didn't think of anything about it. And then the Thursday morning, he had asked, if he could have some. Okay. So I gave him some. And I love my father, and I don't want to put. This is an embarrassing kind of situation, but okay. Normal nowadays is normal. Well, yeah, okay, good. I'm glad you feel that way. Mom's birthday was Wednesday? It was Wednesday, so that was, it was all kind of, it was all kind of weird that we had a good time partying for my mom's birthday, and then, Viagra to go bag some other girls. Right. But I know he's dating 2 other girls, and I don't have a problem with it. Right. My mom's dead, and he should move on. Right? But I just don't want to hear sordid details. He's mentioned that he has hooked up with Betty. the one that was going to go to the tennis. Okay. But not Rita, the one that he said they were supposed to. How about this new girl? Does he mention anything? Does Gary tell you, does your dad mention anything about this? The only thing Gary tells me about the new girl is that she's 62 and they're going kayaking. She's outdoors type of person.
Back now to Brian Buckmeyer, Linda Kenny Bodden, and Michael Bryant one last time. Okay, somebody explain to me what is going on inside the mind of this client. He's telling police that he's given his dad Viagra so his dad can take off with the new woman who he goes kayaking with. And oh, by the way, dad's dating 2 people. And now he's sitting there saying, oh, no, I really chopped my dad up. Linda, explain this defendant's mental state. What is going through his mind?
Well, you can't. And I had to sit here, and actually I was kind of laughing as a defense attorney, and I don't mean to. But did you see his lawyer's language as this is going on? He's kind of going here, and he's moving away, and he's moving away. Right, actually, go this way, and he's going like that. I mean,
Brian,
the language.
Would you have the same reaction?
I would. When I first heard this story, I was like, it does not pass the laugh test. That being, if you said it out loud to a colleague, would they laugh in your face? And I think part of the defense's arguments are somewhat laughable. Okay,
Michael Bryant, what's the legal consequence of this? You need to be the voice of reason in this discussion right now here. So is this evidence that this guy did something way worse than just carve up his dad, which is what he is admitting to?
You know, it's all about the relationship of the father and son. And I'm telling you right now, that's one party-filled relationship. You know, they're both members of the fraternity Phi Delta Debauchery. I don't think he's helping himself to come off as this cowboy that just used to yuck it up and have parties with his dad. I don't think that's believable. I don't think it's going to help him.
His exact quote, referring to his dad, he knows I have a sordid sex life. That's why he asked me for Viagra. Why not ask his doctor?
I would ask his doctor, but the guy with a heart condition, is the doctor going to say, yeah, go romp around on some Viagra? I doubt it. I doubt that's the medical advice that he would get, Aaron.
I don't know. Look, we've had a great panel tonight. Brian Buckmeyer, Linda Kenny Bodden, Michael Bryant, all attorneys, all accomplished, all opinionated. It's been great to have you here for this discussion. We will see you all next time here on The Debrief. And thanks to those of you watching along with us tonight. I'll be back Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern right here on the Law and Crime Network with this nightly recap of the best moments of testimony in cases nationwide. Our live trial coverage resumes at 9 o'clock Monday morning. Good night.